Dr. Jazz.
In New York or?
Dr.
Right
Jazz.
now, I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh wow, okay, back home. Okay,
Yeah.
super. Thanks for finding your time, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure.
I know you're super busy. I mean, the last couple of years, incredible. The amount of records I have you on, it's like, whew. And but I wanted to start this talk with the new one that's coming out in June, Armageddon Flower, and it's another cooperation of, Matt Shipp and kind of his string trio. Like, what's the story behind the record, and especially your relationship with Matt? I know you guys have done like more than 40 records, right, together?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we go way back. I'll talk about that a little bit. Um, Back in the 90s, when I was living in the East Village, I used to have breakfast or brunch every Sunday with friends on St. Mark's Place. And you're familiar with that area, I suppose. Yeah. And there was what was it, Mogador, maybe
Mhm.
the name of the restaurant. It was a Eastern restaurant or something, and the waitress happened to be Matt Shipp's wife back
Oh,
then.
really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Back then, not his wife back then, but her job back then was that. He's still married to her, and we were talking about music, and she said something. I guess, are you guys a musician? Do you know my husband? I said, well, I know of him. And I heard him play with somebody at the old knitting factory. And I was like, I really like it. So then we got in touch, and I just asked him right off the bat, look, I really dig your playing, and I think we should do a recording of a duo of some kind. And so we did. And then, boom, history,
Yeah,
was made because it was an instantaneous. I mean, I felt that guy was different than everybody and anybody else.
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the first note and this whole and he was so open to what I was proposing. We were playing some Brazilian Afro chant songs, Afro Brazilian chanting, and but we were just a couple of bars of a melody, and then it was all over the
Yeah.
place. But keeping the theme, keeping a coherent narrative, respectful to the Afro Brazilian tradition, So Matt was hip and cool to all that. So we started recording, and then for a while we got separated musically. And then I started seeing him on the cover of this and that magazine, and I thought, well, he's too big now for me, And then I was just playing, Lower East Side gigs, and I was trying to make some kind of a name for myself. And then once I had a gig with Joe Morris in Spain. The gig was Ramon Lopez
Oh, wow, beautiful.
Quintet. It was we played a few gigs in southern Spain, and we were having a chat, me and Joe, and he said, "Why don't you get in touch with Matt anymore or something?" I said, "Well, he's too famous now. He doesn't care about me." And he said, "No way, oh, no way, just give him a call. On the contrary, he always talks about you and stuff." So then we got together again. And said, you know what, we should record more, and then that has been the last 15 years or so, and it's
Yeah.
been beautiful because we never get tired of each other. He's always bringing something new to the table. He's the only jazz musician that I can say that I work with.
Hmm.
He's always evolving. He's living life and incorporating his life into his playing. And life is never the same one day from the next.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, so this CD in particular, Armageddon Flower, it's very special because that microcosm that me and Matt, my relationship with Matthew, and that's one part of it, but it unfolds in different directions because to galvanize our already life brimming relationship, there comes Matt freaking Maneri,
Yeah,
one of the greatest musicians in the world, you know. And there's only one violist that plays like Matt
absolutely.
Maneri. It's
Sure.
Matt Maneri, and there'll never be another one because that's how he plays, and you know his instrument is very special. You know,
Yeah.
it takes a very special musician to play it. And then we add William Parker, that I've had lots of
Yeah, you played a lot. Yeah.
experiences ever since the beginning with Rashid Ali and so many different bands. And William is a jewel on it
Yeah.
on his own. I mean, he's a precious, unique jewel. So we, you know, and then to be honest, the session started right. Park West Studio. Jim Clowes, the engineer, he said, "Okay, you guys are on." And from that moment on till it was gone, it was like a dream. I wasn't even there. I was dreaming I was there. My fingers were playing. The music had so much momentum, and it was such a cooperative
Yeah.
effort that I wasn't even there. I was part of the total. I didn't. It was totally effortless. Totally
Yeah.
effortless. Whether I was playing or listening, and when I decided to play again, I came back to playing after a few bars very spontaneously. I'll never forget the session. And to prove that I'm not exaggerating, you heard the music, so
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
suppose
incredible, man. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you agree with me, right? So
Oh, man, you know, if you have already Matt William and I mean two Matts and and you, it's like, you know, you can hear
yeah,
that all of you guys are listening so well, you know, that's so important. I think it's so much about listening and
yeah,
reacting, and that's
because we are four musicians, right? It's
yeah,
a quartet, yeah, yeah. We are four musicians that uh, relate to each other
yeah,
in a very specific way, but very accommodating way. So when you have four possibilities times four, you know, the mathematical equation in art, I mean, the results are
yeah,
off the charts because as I was reacting, let's say at a certain musical spot, right? I was reacting to Maneri's viola. That caused Matt to respond to us, which caused William to respond to the group, but also to respond to the individual duos that were being
yeah, yeah,
formed. It was all happening at the same time at all times. So it's almost like a quantum theory
yeah, yeah, true.
group. It was happening, it would be happening, and it did happen. I mean, every possibility was taking place at the same time
Mm.
in space and, you know, and in the curve, you know, of time space. It's
Yeah.
very deep, man. You
No, no,
heard
it is,
it.
man. Yeah, I mean, improv music anyway, right? If you have established a great relationship with players, it's just like somehow you just play, even if you don't play. Sometimes it's just like, oh,
And Clifford Allen dug it. He understood it to a T. He wrote. Did you? I guess you wrote the
no,
liner
I didn't. I
notes.
just listened to the download that Anne sent me.
Oh, all right. Well, ask her to have the liner
I'll
notes.
check it out. Yeah,
Clifford did a masterful job by describing it very from a distance without hyperboles.
yeah,
But he said it. He gave it to you like it is. I mean, it's a beautiful masterpiece, and never will happen again in another recording. Never. Even if we go back to the studio 10 times, that day was magical.
mm, It's nice to hear. Yeah. Are you gonna
Yeah.
perform this music? I mean, in this quartet
Yeah,
live
yeah,
also?
yeah.
Oh,
We are going to perform that on June 5th at the
okay.
Vision Festival
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful.
in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a killing band. I mean, I hope you'll continue uh, at least some
Thank
more
you.
sessions, you know. Or if there's
Thank
some
you.
leftovers that you put out another one. But
Well, there's a lot of there's no leftover from that session. Everything was used.
oh, well,
We just did it, and then we went
yeah.
home.
I love those. Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. Uh, Ivo, I wanted to ask you also this, like, I have you on so many CDs from last year. You know, there's like this. You did the trio with Elias and Tom Rainey. You know, the part of the Open Loose trio. Then the duo with Tyshawn and the Reggie Workman Andrew Cyril album. And you know, the European connection we mentioned, Ramon Lopez, and with Barry Guy trio. How do these records all happen? Like, what's all these projects? I mean, how do you decide to do something? Let's say with Rainey and Elias, or with Ramon and Barry. Like,
How I decide from a musical perspective. Um, I don't. I am an. I have an instinct. By instinct.
hmm,
By instinct, really. I mean, I don't have a formula. Or okay, now it's time to do this because it's January.
yeah,
Not okay. Or I have uh, investigated that type of music. Now I want to be associated with it. It's just instinct. Sometimes I listen to somebody and I say, "Wow, that's amazing."
hmm,
I wish I could play with this guy. Then I make it happen, and it happens, and it's beautiful. Ramon, we go way back too, from the early Leo record days.
hmm,
We did the duos, trios, we did quartets. We've done a few things together. And of course, I knew who Barry Guy was,
sure.
and we were always talking about it. It would be nice to get together. And then once I was in Europe, and there came the opportunity. And I love this trio.
Oh
It's
man, it's
so
so different for that. Let's say a trio with Rainey and Elias, because it's a different style of aesthetic, kind of, but
yeah. Well,
equally
that's
amazing, right?
yes, yeah. That's something um that I don't make it happen. It's just natural for me that I shy away from preconceived modes of operation of musical aesthetics.
Yeah.
I always want to be somewhere else, and it's only natural that if you're playing with somebody else, if you're truly in the moment and talking to that person, that musician, the result will be radically different. Of course, there are musicians who impose a certain way at all times, and I have nothing against that. That's great too, and they follow a vision, and they impose that vision, and they stick to one band for 10 years. And most great jazz has been like that, like the
Hmm.
great Miles quintets, quartets, Coltrane bands, Gillespie. Nothing wrong with that about. But for me, the great kick is every new time. It's a different time. It's an opportunity to not be myself
Yeah,
again.
I'm the same. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, or else I wouldn't do it.
yeah, yeah.
So the
Definitely.
134 CDs I have out there, I'm glad that I managed to at least make it count and make it different. At least I felt, yes, I this does not sound like anything else that I know of that I've done.
Mm,
And I honored my partner and my partners by being there with them, with that particular individual.
yeah,
And the result is a very unique musical statement.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, it's important. It's good to document, where you are in your life. Just keep doing it, and I mean that's the best way, right? That's
Yeah,
to
that you can
develop,
see,
I guess. You know.
you can see it like that, but I don't know why I have this urge to not be the same always. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe it's a very, what's the word in English? Ludic, Ludical,
Yeah,
ludic.
yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
That, you know, like childlike.
yeah,
That we want to be amazed at everything as if you're encountering everything for the first time.
yeah,
Like a pair of shoes. Wow, a pair of shoes. Oh, wow. So that's a fork. Wow, amazing. You
yeah,
know, maybe I want to keep that thing in hand. You know, from childhood, from being a baby. Maybe I never grew up. You know.
yeah. Now it's good to keep your. I mean, it's like throwing yourself in different water every time, and you have to swim. I mean, that's how we learn, right? I love this approach. For me, I've done the same like you. You know, I went to New York one of the first times, and I recorded a quartet with Malaby, Mark Elias, and Tom Rainey, and because I just wanted to learn as well and to play with those guys, and that's the best way to do it, right?
So you are a sax player?
I'm a guitarist.
Oh, sorry, you're a guitarist. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry. I didn't come prepared for the interview.
Oh, no, I'm interviewing you, so it's okay. I'll send you some links to my music later. But uh, Ivo, I
And
want
where
to.
are you from originally?
I'm in Slovenia right now.
Oh, you're from Slovenia.
You played in
Wow.
Ljubljana, right? Like
Where?
you played in Ljubljana, didn't you?
In where?
In Ljubljana, in Slovenia.
I think I did. I
I
think
think a
I
couple of
did.
months
Yeah.
ago you did actually, because a friend told me that they saw
Yeah,
you.
in Ljubljana. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
beautiful. I remember it was summer, the beautiful greens, beautiful country in the
Yeah, yeah,
summer.
yeah, 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 yeah. No,
Sure.
but I wanted to ask you, since you're in Sao Paulo now, like I have that first record of yours, which it's completely different aesthetic than what you've done later, and the one with Patitucci and Erskine, and uh, how did that record happen, by the way?
Well, we were just talking just that I look for different situations.
Yeah,
So if that happens from day to day, imagine from 3 decades ago.
exactly.
My name was not Evil back then. I was a different guy. I was very different guy. So how did that happen
Yeah.
musically? I was in Los Angeles, and I had been studying at Berkeley College in Boston,
Oh,
and although Berkeley is a great school for the right guy, it wasn't for me. It was very systematic, and so I was looking for something else. So I went to Los Angeles and I studied at a school called the Dick Grove School of Music. Maybe you heard of it.
no, no.
It's no more. Yeah, it's no more. We're talking the 90s, early 90s. And it was great because it was hands on arranging and composing and conducting for film. So every week we would have an assignment and we would learn it from scratch. We had 1 week to learn about a particular style. And at the end of the week, we would hand in the charts. To a small studio orchestra,
Mm,
and the students were the musicians of the orchestra were the students themselves of the particular instrument. So it's a very well structured situation, for everybody.
yeah.
And I was having a great time. And then when that finished, I started playing what in Los Angeles they call casuals, which is just weddings, social functions. And man, I sucked. I mean, I
I cannot
did.
hear you, yeah, actually, in that context, but
I really sucked, man. The more I did it, the less they call me the next second time, and pretty soon nobody was calling me. And the epitome of that was a restaurant gig on, I think, Sun something Boulevard in Los Angeles. It was a New Year's Eve, and it was a time to play a couple bars at the Ipanema Girl, and I took it out. I just couldn't control myself. I was like holding it in for so long, and I probably had a couple of margaritas or something, and I just played my ass off, and they looked at me. I was fired on the spot, and
oh
then
shit.
that day, that evening, actually, I went crazy. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to Brazil.
Mm.
And I don't think I have what it takes to be a professional musician. I know I love music, but, but then I said, I'm going to study flute. So I started studying flute. But then the guy who I searched for flute lessons, Marty Crystal, he had a small label, K2B2, with Bill Neidlinger. Bill
Sure.
Neidlinger.
I know Buell. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. You know everybody. And then we were talking about, maybe it would be a good thing to have a CD when I get back to Brazil, like a business card. Like it was the 1980 something, and CDs were starting to
Yeah.
become popular in 1985 or six, and these guys, they knew everybody, you know. And then when the names came, who would you like to record with? I said, well, I've heard Erskine and Patitucci, with people that I don't relate to musically 100%, but I don't know really who I am to relate to. I was totally naive, and I said, if they're good musicians, at least something's going to come out of it, you
Absolutely.
know. And we went into the studio, and it was all one take because the budget was very small, and they said, "Yeah, we'll do it, but we just spent a few hours there and we out of." It. I said, "Sure," you know. And I called my friend Flora Puring. She wasn't my friend at that time. I didn't know her. And a year or two, and they thought, "Well, this guy must be crazy. He's calling us to play like one take of children's songs like that." And then they accepted, and that it came out great. Did you? I suppose you heard the music, right?
Yeah. Although it's, but sorry, yeah, I did it. I wanted to ask you what happened, but continue. Sorry, that I don't
Yeah.
disturb.
Well, then that night after the session, I was astonished because the music, I could tell, that I met my destiny because I loved the process. I said, I just want to record for the rest of my life. I don't want to play casuals anymore.
Mm,
That's for sure. And then, the next natural step was to move to New York because I knew more people were playing music like that
yeah.
there. So I made the move. I went to New York and I met Fred Hopkins,
Mm.
Andrew Seville, Don Poulin,
Oh wow.
Paul Blay, the Knitting Factory gang. And then I just stay there. And then I do have a penchant for recording. So whenever I had an opportunity, I would ask labels. And I met Matthias Winkelmann, the late Matthias Winkelmann from Ninja
Enjoy. Yeah.
Records. Yeah, and the late Bob Rush from Cadence
Cadence. Yeah.
Records. So I got some support from a few different labels, and then that's it. That's it.
Yeah. No, I find it. I wanted to say I find it amazing. This change since when you moved to New York, you became like you completely opened up musically. I think like
Yeah, yeah,
back then it seems like you were. Yeah, it's the West Coast. Like I don't know, something happened when I hear the records. That first one, and then what you've been doing since. It's just like man, it's someone like burst the bubble. And it's like I will play this
yeah. You can
music
say
and
that my first record, I was a virgin, and
yeah,
when I went to New York, I became a professional whatever, I became like, yeah, okay, this is something that can be done systematically.
yeah,
Free improvisation is not just a one night thing, trial before I go back to Brazil. It's a way of life. There are others that think that way, and it's doable. In Los Angeles, it was like, wow, I don't know if this is gonna work, and I was responding to Patitucci and Erskine and the way they played, and I was trying to make sense out of that. They're great musicians, but they're not
it's a
free
different
jazz
aesthetic,
musicians.
of course. Yeah,
Yeah, so in New York, I was given a carte blanche to like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. I remember William Parker once in the early days telling me very deep things. William is a very deep guy, you know. If you get to know him, and he's very deep.
Yeah.
And many things he told me back then, you know, will never forget. He was saying, you know what? The more important things that you play are the things that don't work, or at least that you think don't work, you know, because those are triggers. It's a trigger for evolution, you know, and makes you think, and you know, there's a lot of things we can talk about that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you and William, I mean, a
Hey,
lot
I'm
of you.
talking a lot. I don't know how long I should be. If you want, I can be more concise. If not, I
Oh
can
no, no,
talk,
man!
talk, talk.
It's like a free improv gig, like you said. It's you know, it's
Okay.
we're just blowing. So you and William, you have I have that record with Rashid. I mean, from '97. What was Sad Life? I think it's called. And
Oh, so you have said life. Great.
how did you connect with Rashid also? Like through William or?
Oh, Rashid was a beautiful thing. It was very spontaneous and natural.
Mm,
I bumped into him, I think, on 14th Street.
mm,
And yeah, on 14th Street. And he was like walking on, you know, with shorts. And I said, "Oh my God, Rashid." I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Look, Rashid, I know you, you don't know me, and I've heard you play the other night at Bradley's or something. And I don't know, he believed that we could do something." And I said, "Look, just say yes. Let's do something. Please, let's record something." And he said yes. I don't know
wow.
what made him say yes to a nobody. You know, he was like Rashid Ali, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he did hear of me or something. He never told me. But next thing I know, we were doing an album for Leo Records.
Yeah. Incredible.
That's how it goes.
Mm, yeah. What's
Yeah, and it was such a great session because
yeah.
he and William made the most incredible free jazz unit. Yeah, and for a moment I was like breathing John Coltrane's air from the '60s. You know, he made that atmosphere happen and come back again. You know,
Mm,
so it was very special. It was like playing with someone you admire so much, and playing with someone that played with John Coltrane. That John was for me a divine entity for so many years. You know.
mm. Yeah, that was my some other question. Like growing up in Sao Paulo, how did you get into jazz? Like, who were the players that inspired you, or like said, like, shit, I want to investigate this music?
Well, that's a very good question because back in the '60s and '70s, when I was born and lived in Brazil, jazz was a very foreign, alien thing,
Yeah, yeah,
culturally speaking. Of course, there was no internet, nothing like that, and you could only get LPs. They were imported and they were very expensive, very hard to find. And those who had one would throw like meetings to get together and listen to a new, very special, expensive recording from Paul Horn or somebody, you know. And so I was starting to play classical music on the guitar, Villa
really interesting.
Lobos.
Oh, well, yeah,
For
sure.
many, yeah, for many years I was into Villa Lobos, classical guitar. Then I was all over the place. I said, you know what, I'm not I'm not a classical musician. I don't like to memorize pieces. I like to invent pieces. And my teacher was threatening to abandon me, and she did. And so I was on my own. So I started playing the guitar, electric bass, clarinet, trombone, piano, mandolin, you name it. For many years, I was lost until I played the saxophone. I was 15 or 16, and
Mm,
I said, "Wow, I like this thing. I really do." Then I listened to Wayne Shorter's Schizophrenia,
yeah,
and I said, "Man, that saxophone is so complex and it's so simple at the same time. It sounds like nobility, and at the
Mm.
same time, it sounds like a very bad tuned instrument, like made out of sardine cans. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you know, I was fascinated. And I was fascinated. And so I had a couple of friends who loved jazz, and we would share information, how to get books, what radio shows we could have access to. And then suddenly a friend of mine who gave up medicine studies, got a scholarship or went to Berkeley College, and he showed me the catalog. And I was, wow, that's so beautiful, saxophones and things. I ended up going there with him in 1981,
Oh,
January 1981. Um, then I did a few semesters. Then I quit. Then I went to Montreal, spent a year in Montreal,
wow.
played some casuals, but on the guitar as a bossa nova guy.
Oh, wow, man. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was practicing the saxophone with the late Nick Ayub. Nick Ayub was a very good teacher and sax player in Montreal at the Conservatoire de Musique of Montréal. And then when I felt strong about the saxophone, in Los Angeles, I then started playing more professional saxophone, and then New York, and then I guess I told you more or less
Yeah, yeah.
the story how it went.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. Ivo, since I have you here, I wanted to ask you about one of the more interesting projects you did was the Art of the Improv Trio, and the one that you did for Leo Records. How did that one happen? How did you conceptualize that project?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that. But since you're asking so many questions and you seem to know my Leo Record Days albums, I want to make sure that your listeners know, you probably know, that all these 68 recordings from 1997 to 2017, this is what, 20-year
Yeah,
period,
yeah.
right? 68 Leo records of mine released then are now being available under Burning Ambulance, Leo. Burning Ambulance is a label owned by Phil Freeman, and he got it from Leo on all the Leo catalog. And he just released 20 albums of mine, and next week we'll release the 20 next ones, and then a month later the last 20, and then the last 8. So it's 68 albums, beautiful, beautiful, done, digitally available. I'm so happy
Oh,
this is
fantastic,
happening.
man. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's fantastic news.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
so what, how did I come with that concept? Well, I always enjoyed the duos. Duos was and is for me the most immediate direct form of communication.
Mm.
Either you're talking to someone or playing with someone. For obvious reasons, it's one to one.
Yeah.
There's not a third divergent path. It's direct communication. But then when I played trios at the same time, I was mesmerized by the multiplicity of unfoldings of it was not just, oh, now I have one more guy, so it's like two trios, two duos, or one different trio.
Hmm.
It's more than that. It's like a third guy is a catalyst that, much like in a chemical um, reaction, can lead to unforeseeable,
Yeah.
unexpectable reaction that you had no idea that it was going to happen. A catalyst, and then the three guys functions as three catalysts to each other. So I tend to think about stuff like that sometimes. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to investigate. So the more I did it, the more I was like, wow, you know, wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. So I took it to the limit, and I did all these many albums as a trio. You know.
Yeah, I love it because because you hear all these different I've played quite some with Gerald Cleaver, right? And then
Oh,
I really love how you did like a couple of trios with Gerald, but with Matt and Joe, and how the vibe changes even though two members are the same, right? It's so interesting
exactly.
to listen to that. I really like that concept. It was
Yeah,
cool.
that was my point. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You got it perfectly.
So
Yeah.
so so nice to hear that. Yeah.
Well, you see, I mean, I'm trying to always find reasons to get myself excited, you know, to have a purpose, or else I wouldn't be able to record so many albums. And if I didn't make an effort to, from the get go, to make something out of it. So from the get go,
Yeah.
there's a new structure, right, to excite me and the other guys. You know, the only exception is Matthew Shipp. We have built a built-in,
Yeah.
forever fresh music relationship that I don't see it ever finishing.
Yeah.
Honestly, because the next time I do it, always when I meet him again, I'm like, I don't know. We've covered so many places and musical scenarios, and then all of a sudden we are writing a whole new fresh book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's the only exception.
Do you guys
I
ever
mean,
talk about music with Matt? Like how to
uh,
do it, or just usually just jump in?
we just jump in, but
Mm.
then we get great pleasure in listening to the takes at the end of the session, and we discuss briefly about them. We might just go, "Oh man, that's it." That means great, great piece, 5 stars. Will probably be the first one to appear on the CD. And then occasionally we talk for like a couple of minutes that sometimes a very subject thing that has nothing to do with the music, very philosophical. You know, he's a very
Yeah.
philosophical
Yeah.
guy. I have I'm open to philosophy myself, not like him, but I enjoy talking to him about that. And then sometimes we talk about like chords or well, this was not happening because A minor 7, blah blah blah. Everything happens, but as we meet that day for the session, we don't talk about things. We just,
Interesting.
hey Matthew, hey man, okay, let's go for it. Cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you've got it there. It's nice to have that uh, in your musical life. That there's one constant in your career, and then there's other detours all the time, which is great.
Yeah, yeah,
It's great.
I am very grateful that I
Yeah.
got to meet him in New York and that we are contemporaries. We're almost the same age, just
Yeah. Yeah.
months apart, because he could have been born last century or me, like there's a major design that dictates who's going to be born when, so that certain few things will develop. Who will be the president of what country under what conditions that will create certain wars and well, that's conversation for another time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Eva, I just wanted to ask you also, what's on the schedule for you for this year? I mean, touring wise, or what are the other projects you're planning to do this year?
Oh, okay, so after that thing with Matthew on June 5th, there is a guy in Italy who's we're almost signing a deal to do a few gigs. Me and Joe Lovano, just duo.
Wow, seriously? Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I did record with Joe Lovano a couple of years ago or 3 years ago. I don't know if you are familiar with that. It's
No.
okay. The label is called Mahakala.
Okay.
Maha, yeah, Mahakala, and it's me and 12 other sax players. So Joe was one of them, and I enjoyed immensely doing that, and he also did. and that promoter in Italy offered that gig. He said he loved that duo from that box. There was a lot of tenor players, alto players, Joe McPhee in that
Mm,
box. Yeah, yeah, it was a great
I find
experience.
it. Oh,
Yeah, so we're almost there. I mean, we have the dates, and but next every week say, oh, you know what, maybe I can add one more gig and this and that. But I believe it's going to happen. And recording wise, there will be another duo with Nate Woolley on Burning Ambulance. That will be the fourth volume. We've done three, right?
yeah,
And Phil Freeman told me that he will release that fourth volume we did a few months ago at the end of the year. And also, there's a few projects that I did for Fundacja
sure, sure.
Slushaj.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to say that name well.
Sluchaj.
It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Polish
I know those
the
guys. Yeah.
Polish label Maciej Karlovsky, and he's also releasing a few albums, and then Phil Freeman is releasing releasing 68 albums of mine. So I'm not probably not gonna be recording anything for a while now because it's
That's a
too
lot.
much is too much,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
for me. So I'm
Six.
gonna just take it easy for a while.
Yeah, yeah. 68 is a lot even for you, man. That's
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
no, but cool, man. I hope to catch you live somewhere soon. If you're ever close to Slovenia, drop me a line or in Austria or something that we get together and would be nice to meet.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I do have your email from Anne. So if I'm around, I'll
Yeah, yeah.
drop you a note. Sure.
Super. Ivo,
Hey,
man, thanks so
when
much.
is this going to be?
I think in
eh,
two or 3 months it's out. So it's like
and do you? Is it's part of a thing, or you edit, or how do you
no,
do
I
it?
just I make a sketch of you and I leave it as a whole from the beginning to until kind of now. I'll cut this out, but and
Good,
it's part of a
good.
huge series. Like I did this with all the guys you played with, from Joe Morris to William Parker to Matt Shipp to all of these guys, and it's like the idea is to create an archive of interviews with musicians who are active on the creative music scene. So
So please make sure you send me the link, and then
I
I can
will
post it and
absolutely,
say, check this out.
absolutely.
I enjoyed. It was a wonderful conversation.
Yes, me
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
man.
Stay strong,
Okay.
Ivo.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.